Hey everyone, thank you for watching. Today's video is going to be all about eyeshadow palette reviews. I have some new palettes here that I want to share my thoughts on. So I'm going to be reviewing the Mini Sunset palette from Natasha Denona, also the Urban Decay BackTalk palette, and then I will also be reviewing the Anastasia Soft Glam palette. I really want to do more review videos on my channel. It's something that I'm going to be striving for. Let me know if you like the style of video, of course. A favorite YouTuber of mine, Andrea, she does these videos really consistently, and I really enjoy when she does her new palette releases and reviews, and they're some of my favorite videos to watch. So she's definitely inspired me to make this a really consistent video on my channel. I will have her channel, of course, linked down below, but it's something that I definitely want to do more. So I'm excited to be reviewing these three palettes today. So if you want to see my thoughts on these palettes, why don't we go ahead and get started. So first up, I want to talk about the Mini Sunset palette from Natasha Denona. My friend Candace did send this to me, which I was really excited about. I was planning on purchasing this. I kind of went back and forth on it for a while, and then I finally was like, you know what, girl, go ahead and do it. It's $24, so it's less expensive than some of her other palettes, of course, but it also is a mini palette. I mean, it says it in the title. It is the Mini Sunset palette, so I knew obviously it was going to be smaller and you were going to be getting less product, but for me, that was going to be okay. I was planning on picking it up during the VIB sale, which is coming up, but Candace actually got it. She said that she didn't love it, so she sent it on to me, which I was really excited about. So when I got it, I mean, it definitely is a small palette. I'll do close-up shots and swatches and things like that, but I mean, it definitely is a small palette. You know, I grabbed out my Dose of Colors Marvelous Mauves palette so you can see, maybe you can see kind of the difference you know, in size. I mean, it definitely is a smaller palette. You do get less product. I think overall the total amount of grams is 0.8 grams. Just for comparison's sakes, because I did pull it out, this is 1.7 grams of total product. It's $32 for the 5 shades, and again, this one is $24. You also do get a mirror with the Dose of Colors Marvelous Mauves and all of that, but this isn't really a comparison video, but I just thought size-wise I would show that. So I will say though, the size doesn't bother me. I know the size was really bothering a lot of people. The amount of product is really bothering a lot of people. For me, that's not something that upsets me. I like my small palettes. I like the Dose of Colors, you know, 5 shade palettes. I have a bunch of ColourPop palettes, like the I Love Sarah E palettes that have 4 shades in there, and I know a lot of people are like, you can take the singles out and put them in a big Z palette. I don't want to do that. I'm someone who actually likes these smaller palettes. They are what I reach for more. So the size of this doesn't bother me at all. It would be super easy to travel with. I don't mind that it's smaller. I also don't mind that you get less product, because I have said this a lot in my past videos. I do not mind minis. I don't mind paying less for something and getting less product, because I very rarely go through items, especially when it comes to eyeshadow palettes. I very rarely, Aries is snoring if you hear that, I very rarely hit pan on anything. I am very light-handed when it comes to my makeup, which definitely plays a part of it, but I am someone who does have a larger eyeshadow collection that it's so hard for me to hit pan on anything. Again, going back to this Marvelous Mauves palette, this might be one of my most used eyeshadow palettes. I travel with this a ton. I wore it almost every single day on my 6-day Arizona vacation. There is no pan at all. I mean, you can see little dips and dents in the shades, but there's no pan, and I wear this eyeshadow palette a ton. So if you're someone like me, who you are light-handed, maybe you have a larger eyeshadow collection, or maybe you're someone who doesn't wear eyeshadow on a daily basis type of thing, this could be a good option for you, especially to try out the Natasha Denona eyeshadows. But if you're someone who is heavier handed, you know, you have those like 2-3 palettes in your collection that you continually use and you go through products and you hit pan on them, sure, this might not be the best option for you. But for me personally, that is why I was excited, and that's why I decided to purchase it. But again, a huge thank you to Candace for sending this to me, because I was very excited about it. The shades in here had me pretty stoked, because they're the shades that I really enjoy. And again, I don't mind only having 5 shades, because I'm someone who's not necessarily artistically creative, and sometimes it's hard for me, especially when I look at a big eyeshadow palette with a ton of different shades. It's hard for me to think of like, okay, what am I gonna do? A lot of times I watch YouTube tutorials. Today, to get this eye look, I went off an Instagram tutorial. Like, I don't have the best in mind when it comes to that. So again, sometimes that's why I gear towards these smaller palettes, towards the Dose of Colors palettes, because I feel like I can look at it and be like, yes, I know what I'm doing today, and it gets me pretty excited. So I like that we have the two mattes. You have two matte brown shades, which I enjoy that we have those, and I really do like the shimmer colors in here. I love that they put in this cranberry color. I was wearing it recently and I really enjoyed it, and then I also really enjoyed these two gold shades, and I think the quality of these eyeshadows are really good. This has me very impressed with Natasha Denona eyeshadows, I will say that. So again, if you've been wanting to try out her palettes but you refuse to spend the $100 and up, because that is definitely me, this could be a really good way to dip your toes into the brand, see if you like it, and then also at the same time, maybe you'll realize, hey, these are some of my favorite shades. I actually need to go out and buy that big old eyeshadow palette with all these other shades in there that maybe I don't use. This is good enough for me, and you're only gonna spend the $24 on it. So this palette actually has me very excited. All of the shades, I have used all 5 of the shades, and I think that they are really beautiful. I do want to have an Instagram tutorial up for each of the palettes that I'm talking about. I do have BackTalk already up. I will have Soft Glam going up soon. The only one that I haven't filmed a tutorial with yet is this one right here, because I was mostly doing day to night looks when I use this palette, and I don't typically film those for Instagram, but I will be doing an Instagram tutorial with this one as well. So if you don't follow me on Instagram yet, I do post a tutorial fairly often over there, so I will be doing that with this one. But I have to say, I'm very impressed with it. The mattes were easy to use, pigmented, blendable. The shimmers are so good. These are shimmers that I don't have to use a damp brush with. Typically with every single shimmer, I will always want to spray my brush with some sort of like setting spray just to get it damp so the shimmers pop a little bit more. They're a little bit more metallic, and you actually don't need that with these. I always try them first when I'm using a new palette. I will try it first without the setting spray just to get an idea of the quality, and because I know not everybody wants to use a damp brush, you don't have a setting spray and that sort of thing. These are ones that you don't need. I still then go in and spray my brush just because I like it with a little bit more pop, but there's a lot of eyeshadow palettes where you have to have that option. Otherwise the shadows just look like blah on your eyes. So that impressed me with this one as well. So I think personally for me, for the $24, what I prefer in my collection, this one would not, like if I were to have purchased this one myself instead of getting it as a gift, I would still be happy with this. I would still have kept it, and I still would have been happy with my purchase. And it's also one of those things that now that I do have this one and I have the shades in here that I really do like, I'm kind of that person that's like, maybe I don't need that big old sunset palette then, like, because I'm happy with this guy. I can travel with it. I know what eye looks I want to create when it comes to this, and I feel like the quality is really good. So this one got a thumbs up from me. So next up, I want to talk about the Urban Decay BackTalk palette. So if you caught my Will I Buy It, where I talked about this palette, I was so excited for this release. I really enjoy Urban Decay as a brand. I have a lot from them. I've repurchased a lot from them, and I use them on a very consistent basis. I travel with their products a lot. They're truly just one of my favorite brands. I was very excited when I saw this palette because on the eyeshadow side, these are just like my tones right now. I'm really into the pinks and these mauves. I was very excited about that, but I thought it was really cool to see that we were also getting a double palette. Essentially, we were also getting a face side for this palette where you have blushes and highlights too. There is a magnetic mirror that can pull out with the packaging, but I was just excited. I really like all-inclusive palettes. I like a lot of face palettes. I like being able to go into one palette and getting more options than just a blush palette, just a highlight palette. I like having a palette that has more than one option in there. So when I saw this, I was like, this is like my perfect palette. Palette is $46. You should be able to find it on the Urban Decay website still, and it is available on Sephora. So of course everything I'm talking about will be linked down below. So this palette has been getting lots of mixed feedback, I would say. So I'm just gonna offer my 2 cents in here and let you guys know what I think about it for myself. So first of all, I don't mind the packaging on this. It is a little bit on the bulky side, but a lot of times when I am doing my makeup, I will just pull the mirror out. Sometimes I use the mirror, but I have my own little like handheld mirror that I use when I do my makeup. But I will say that I did travel with this palette over Easter weekend, and I did just pull out the mirror, and that's what I used to do my eye makeup. So I appreciate it, the fact that we have that. I also do like that you can pull it out, so if you don't want the mirror, or if you think that part is annoying or too bulky or whatever, it's not something that is in there permanently and you can't do anything about it. So I do appreciate that. So I will also say for the eyeshadow side of things is where I will start with. Again, I love this color scheme because it is very me, especially right now. These are the tones that I'm reaching for. These are the shadows that I'm reaching for. I did do a first impression with this palette, and at the time that I did the first impression video, there was already some reviews coming out saying that there was no pigmentation to these. You know, the palette was a bust, and I was really disappointed. I will say too that Urban Decay did send this to me in PR, but I was fully planning on purchasing it myself. I was going to buy it after we got home from our Arizona trip, just because I knew I didn't want it to come while we were gone, but also I knew even if I ordered it right away, I wasn't going to be able to play with it, type of thing. So I knew my review was going to come later than others. So what I'll say is that when I did my first impression video, I liked the look that I came up with, and I didn't feel like I had like a lot of struggles with it. It was a pretty basic look. I'll you know, link my video down below, of course, but a lot of times when I'm trying out a new palette, I go for pretty basic right away, you know, more of my comfort zone, my technique that I have with eyeshadows. I really like the look that I came up with. Also, what I did say in that video was that I wish there was at least like one more matte shade in here. We have 3 sheets, which is matte, BackTalk, which is matte, and then WTF, which is matte. So this 3 sheets, basically the only thing that I use it for is to kind of set my eye primer or the concealer on my eyes as kind of a base shadow. And then we have a really nice mauve and then a pretty warm brown over here in WTF. The rest are shimmers. And so I wish there was one more, maybe like another pinky shade or something, just one more matte in here I think would be really helpful. Also Bare and Curve, I feel like these guys are really similar, but I like Curve more. It just has a little bit more pigmentation to it. Bare just doesn't do a whole lot for me. Really, the only step I would use that is for like an inner corner or brow bone highlight, but it's just a little bit lacking. So I wish I wish these two weren't in there because they are so similar. And when you have a smaller palette like this, I just wish there was more versatility with it. But moving kind of down the line, I loved BackTalk. BackTalk and WTF I think are fabulous. I love them. Shade and Attitude, I actually really like these as well. And a lot of people are saying that they don't like the shade, and I do. That is what I used in my first impression video, and I was really happy with it. I love putting it all over the lid. I think it's just like really cool pop of color, and I like that shade a lot. Again, Attitude I've used as well all over the lid. I really like that one. And 180 is really cool. I'm glad that we have 180 in there because it's a different, it's more of the brown tones. And again, I think this is actually the one that I used in my Instagram tutorial. So again, that will be linked down below. But I like that shade as well. And I think it brings something a little bit more different and unique to the palette instead of being, I mean, it's a pretty monochromatic palette, don't get me wrong, but I like that we have that shade in there. I feel like it's just missing just a few key components that could make this a really, really good eyeshadow palette and have more versatility with it. But again, if I'm talking about me personally and what I'm reaching for, I like this palette for these shades, and I like all of the looks that I've come up with in this palette. I won't say it completely knocked it out of the park with me eyeshadow wise, that I'm absolutely completely raving about this palette, but again, if I purchased this at the $46, I still would keep this palette. I would not return it. I still do like it. I like the shades in here. You know, it makes me worried, especially when I do get something in PR, because I feel like people won't take my opinion as seriously. But if you guys watch my videos, I talk about PR products that I get that I don't like. My last Makeup Monthly, every single one of my fails was items that I received in PR. I don't care if I receive something or if I buy it myself or if a friend gifts it to me. I still have to be honest, and I still have to say that I do like this palette and I would keep it myself. Now, I don't think it's for everybody though, and again, I don't think it's a 5-star palette. I think there are a few tweaks that could have happened with it, but I mean, pigmentation wise, I guess I don't know because I feel like everything works really well for me. Again, I do use a damp brush, so I do, you know, wet my brush with a setting spray when I use the shimmers in here, and I won't say they're like the Natasha Denona where A, I don't need to spray my brush, but B, when I do, I really only need like 1 to 2 passes to build up a shade. You do have to build these up a little bit more. So for me, for the eyeshadows, I do like this palette. Again, I took this traveling with me over Easter weekend. It was the only palette that I brought with me. I didn't bring any other eyeshadows with me, and this is what I worked off of because I do like it. If you're someone like me who you're really into these tones and these are your vibes, I think that you would like this palette as well. If these are not your shades, if you don't like monochromatic palettes, don't buy this one because I don't know why you would, because you won't like it. But again, for me, I enjoy this palette, so that's what I think about the eyeshadow side. Again, I don't want to say it's like, for how excited I was over the BackTalk palette, it didn't get me to that level of hype. but I still like the palette and I still would recommend it if it seems like a palette for you, and I understand that it's not going to be for everyone. Then on the face side, so I will say that a lot of the reviews I'm seeing are people saying they don't really like the eyeshadow side, but they like the face palette side. I don't know. For me, I'm not sure. I don't know, because I do like the eyeshadow side. I like the face side, but it doesn't get me like quite as excited. So I'm not sure. I feel like I mean, again, this is just my 2 cents and what I have to say. I can't go off what everybody else says in their reviews. I have to go off what I think and what I reach for. I will still say that I like the face side as well, and I'm glad that we have it. I think it's cool. Again, when I took this traveling, I didn't bring any other highlights or blushes with me. I literally just put this palette in my bag, and that's, again, what I worked off for the weekend. I do like the blushes in here. I will say that they're kind of hard though, because if I go in more heavier handed, it's too much. It's too pigmented. The first time, or the second time I used it, when I used the shade right here, I think it was almost like clownish on me. It was too much. So then when I go in with a lighter hand, it's like it's too little and I have to take my time blending it up. But I don't mind the blushes at all, and I think that they are really pretty. I do like the highlights. I actually have Party Foul on today because I do prefer the highlight out of here, but I like the face side as well. So I think everything is nicely pigmented over here. The blushes were just a little bit hard to work with, but I actually really like both of the colors in here, and they're different from what I have in my blush collection. I have a lot of like light pink, baby doll pink, a lot of like neutral pinks in my blush collection. So I thought that these were cool colors for me to have. Again, I prefer Party Foul for the highlight. This highlight I don't wear as much because it has a little bit more like color to it, which I don't always love for my highlights. But again, I still think that these are nice highlights. So overall, I still like the palette. I think it works well for me for my personal makeup vibes and for what I go for. And again, I'm someone, when it does come to my makeup looks, I'm more on the simple side usually. Again, that's why the Natasha Denona works for me so well, because I can look at it and I know what I'm getting, and I feel like that's very similar to the Urban Decay BackTalk. So again, this might be something where if you are like me and you have trouble coming up with your own makeup looks and you need something that's a little bit more simpler and maybe more monochromatic, I still think that you would like this palette. I will say that Urban Decay's items seem to go on sale a lot. So if this is one that you're thinking about but you're not sure because of all the mixed reviews, or you're not sure how much use you would get out of all of these shades, wait a little bit, because I have a feeling it would probably go on sale, or at least the VIB sale is coming up, so you can get the 15% off, I think it is, if you really do want to try this palette. But for me, I still like it. I can't say that I'm overly hyped about it, that it's a 5-star product for me. How excited I was for the palette, that's what got me a little bit let down, but I feel like the palette overall isn't a letdown. I just wish there was a few little differences to it, a few little tweaks to it, but overall I'm happy with this palette. So that's what I think about the BackTalk. So the last eyeshadow palette that I want to chat about for this video is from Anastasia Beverly Hills, and this is the new Soft Glam palette. My friend Katie, or Katie Marie from my vanity, actually sent this to me for my birthday, so big thank you to Katie. I will leave her channel link down below. A huge thank you to her. I really wanted this palette, but I mentioned in my latest empties video, I've been trying really hard not to be on like a low buy for makeup. We just, you know, my husband lost his job back in January. He is now working again, which is great, but what he's doing now, we actually have to move, so we'll have, you know, some life changes coming up, and honestly, just kind of going through that situation really made me step back from a lot of things, and that included buying makeup. And I feel like I'm just still in that mindset right now. Even though we're in a better place and everything, I still feel like I'm in that mindset of like, I don't know what tomorrow is gonna bring type of thing. Now, I wanted this palette. I really do like Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadow palettes. The Modern Renaissance is definitely one of my favorite palettes. I did like the Subculture. I actually ended up decluttering it because the dupe for it I thought was really good, and I actually like the dupe more, so I actually decluttered the Subculture. But I saw a lot of reviews coming in and people were saying this is more similar to the Modern Renaissance formula, and that's what had me excited. So this is $42. You can find it on the Anastasia website and also Sephora and Ulta. It's the same kind of packaging for the Modern Renaissance, this kind of velvety feel right here, and then inside again is very similar to Modern Renaissance and Subculture. You have a mirror, you do get a brush as well. I just typically don't use the brushes, and then you have the eyeshadows. So if you can tell, I've really been loving on this palette. I feel like this is a dirty palette for me. Again, I'm pretty light-handed and I don't make like a big mess, but I feel like this one, you can see that I've been trying to give it some love. as I'm getting ready for this review. I did use it on my eyes today. I have another Instagram tutorial that will be going up, not on this look, but I have an Instagram tutorial going up as well. So what I will say for this palette is that I love it. That's it. That's my review. Thanks for watching. No, I'm just kidding, but the moment that I dipped into this palette, I was like, yes, yes, ma'am, because it is similar to the Modern Renaissance formula, and I appreciate that so much. Now, there are repeat shades in here from the Modern Renaissance. Tempera is in the Modern Renaissance, and then Cypress Umber, and I think Burnt Orange are in the Modern Renaissance palette. So if you have the Modern Renaissance and like those are your favorite shades and the other shades don't really interest you, definitely don't get this palette because there are repeat shades. I don't necessarily mind the repeat shades in here, especially with those particular shades, because I reach for those a lot. So instead of, it's just one of those like really weird small things, but when I'm creating an eye look, I like to go into one palette and create a full eye look or the majority of an eye look. So I wouldn't want to be reaching for my Modern Renaissance for those shades and then coming into this one. It would just bug me. So for that reason, I do appreciate that we have those shades, because like Tempera, I use basically every single time. It does have a bit of a sheen to it, but I do like to place it all over the lid. And then I also like it for inner corner, for brow bone highlight, and all of that. Burnt Orange is a shade that I could use every single day and be happy with. Cypress Umber is a nice shade for if you want to deepen up an eye look. It's not something that I do absolutely have to have, but I do want to say that about the repeat shades. That's just going to be, you know, your personal preference type of thing. But when the palette came out, when we saw what was going to be in the palette, I was like, this is a palette for me. These are shades that I love. These are shades that I reach for. You know, it's a lot of, there is a lot of neutral in here, but I loved the pops of color that were in here. Like this sultry shade, I don't know if you can tell, but I clearly have loved on that shade because it's a hot mess. It already has quite a big dent into it. I do like that we get a black in this palette, and I actually did use the black for today's eye look. I liked these golds in here and that soft pink. This Dusty Rose is one of my favorite colors. Almost every single time I've gone into this palette, I have somehow found a way to put Dusty Rose on my eyes, because that really like muted purple mauve is just, I'm like feeling it right now. So I was really excited over the quality of this eyeshadow palette. I love the way they blend. I love how pigmented they are. The shimmers are beautiful. Again, I do use a damp brush with the shimmers, because I will say I do get some fallout with these. Same as I do the Modern Renaissance, but nothing too crazy. I would just recommend when you use this palette, do your eyes first and then move on to the rest of your face so you can wipe everything away. So I do want to mention the fallout, but other than that, this is just, I really, really like this palette. Thank you so much, Katie, for sending this to me. Again, this is another one that if I wouldn't have received it as a gift and I would have spent the $42 on it, I would have been happy with it. I wouldn't have returned it, and I really like this palette. And again, I feel like you can do a lot of different looks with this one. You can do an all matte look, you can bring in the shimmers, you can go dark, you can do neutral, you can do a really simple eye look as well, and then you can do something really dark and dramatic with some of these deeper shades in here. Sultry was one that actually kind of surprised me with how deep of a shimmer it is. For some reason, looking at it, I thought it would be more, I don't know, more just like of a pinky shimmer, but it has a lot of depth to it. But I also like that we have Glistening, which is a really pretty gold. The only thing that I will say is like between Bronze, Glistening, and Fairy, I mean, they're all different, and I'll be inserting swatches too. They're different, but it's still like, ooh, maybe there could have been just something a little bit different. You know what I mean? Like maybe just a little bit different of another gold in there, because like Rose Pink and Sultry, those are very different. And even like these mattes here in this corner, they're all different enough. So that would be like my only thing. Like if I had to change something about the palette, I would maybe have tweaked one of those to a different color shimmer. If you were on the fence about it, I would recommend it. You know, look through your collection, see if you do need it. You know, I don't try to be that person that's like, you need absolutely everything. But if you've been thinking about this one, maybe if you wanted the sister palette to the Modern Renaissance and Subculture didn't do it for you, or if you never caved and got the Modern Renaissance but you were interested in the Soft Glam, it is something that I would recommend. This one has me so very excited. If I had to rank the 3 eyeshadow palettes that I was talking about in this video, I would do Soft Glam would be 1, Natasha Denona would be 2, and Urban Decay would be 3. If that helps at all or gives you any sort of better inclination of what I think of the 3 eyeshadow palettes that I'm reviewing, that is the order that I would rank them, and I just really enjoyed the Soft Glam palette. So after that, that is going to do it for today's video. Alright guys, so that's going to be everything for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed this video or you found it helpful in some way. Let me know what you thought about the 3 palettes that I chatted about down below. Do you have any of these yet? Are you eyeing them? Are you going to wait for the sale? I really do hope that you found this helpful. Like I said, I want to do more review videos on my channel, so I'll try to do these on a pretty consistent basis. Please let me know if there's items out there that you want to see reviewed, but I already have like 4 more review videos in the works. I actually was thinking about reviewing more products in here, but I know I can be a little bit chatty and long-winded, so I don't want to make these too long, so I decided to limit it to the 3, but I hope that you found it helpful. Again, you know, never just base what you're gonna buy on one person's review. You know, watch a lot of different reviews and actually listen to what they're saying and how that pertains to your makeup style, your makeup vibe, what's in your makeup collection, and all of that, because it varies so much from person to person. So that's it for today's video, guys. I hope that you found it helpful. If you did, I hope that you'll give this video a thumbs up. I hope that you'll also consider subscribing before you go, and I'll catch you guys in tomorrow's video.